Did you know that in South Korea you can actually watch live in North Korea from special observatories along the border? Not just the landscape, but real people in the distance working in the fields or moving around their villages. And the contrast is hard to ignore. One of these observatories even has a Starbucks inside. You can sip your latte while looking at a place that North Korea presents as a model socialist society. When you're there, it doesn't feel strange at first. But the longer you look, the more one question keeps coming back. Why is South Korea still looking at the North both literally and metaphorically, while the North has already moved on from the idea of being one nation? South Korea even maintains institutions that symbolically govern North Korea from its own side of the border, including an agency that manages the 5 northern provinces. Why does it feel like checking an ex's Instagram long after the breakup? Why is unification still one of the loudest narratives in South Korea while the North barely engaged with it anymore? What keeps this idea alive? History, identity, politics, or something else? And what are these viewing points where people can see life of North Koreans up close? In this video, let's explore all of these questions and try to find answers. If you're ready, let's dive in. Annyeong, I'm Lisa and welcome to Chosun Chronicles. Since the division, North and South Korea have had a complicated relationship, mostly downs with a few epic ups. But not so long ago, North Korea made an unprecedented move, almost an ideological break. In December 2023, Kim Jong-un declared that the two Koreas were no longer one nation. This meant abandoning the idea of unification, rewriting parts of the constitution, reframing the Korean ties as hostile state-to-state relations, and introducing a new concept, the two-state theory. It is a clear statement that ethnic unity is no longer the basis for inter-Korean relations. It matters because historically, both Koreas claimed to be the only legitimate Korea. The North Korea's 1948 constitution originally listed Seoul as its official capital, while Pyongyang was a temporary one. Even after the 1972 revision of the constitution, when Pyongyang became the official capital, unification based on revolution and one Korea remained at the core of North Korea's state identity. So, Kim Jong-un's latest decision directly contradicts the ideological foundation North Korea had relied on for decades before that. Personally, I always thought that if anyone abandoned the idea first, it will be South Korea, not the North, which has been always seen as a more ideologically rigid society. Since then, North Korea hasn't just changed its tone, it has been actively removing the symbols of unification, redrawing maps, revising anthem lyrics, dismantling the arch of reunification. North Korea now consistently presents itself as a fully sovereign state with no national connection to the South. The message is simple. North Korea is trying to prevent any scenario that resembles unification under Seoul's leadership, especially anything close to absorption. So, the North has moved on, but the South still hasn't fully let go. Next, let's explore what are the structural and symbolic foundations that keep the unification narrative alive in South Korea. Let's start with the legal foundations. Article 3 of South Korea's constitution states that the territory of the Republic of Korea includes the entire Korean peninsula and its islands, meaning North Korea is legally considered part of the South's territory. Article 4 adds that the Republic of Korea must seek peaceful unification. So the unification narrative is not just political talk, it's written in the country's core legal framework. And one of the most striking examples is institutional. South Korea still maintains a government body responsible for the administration of North Korean territory, the Committee for the Five Northern Korean Provinces. According to its official description, it handles administrative affairs for the provinces and represents preparation for future unification. Each province even has an appointed governor. Then there is the Ministry of Unification. It handles inter-Korean dialogue, unification policy, and oversees institutions like Hanawon, which is a settlement support center for North Korean refugees, and which helps adapt North Koreans who manage to escape. Historically, the ministry also played a key role in humanitarian assistance to North Korea. But why maintain this whole structure? Official reasons sound a little idealistic. Helping separated families, enabling free movement across the peninsula, reducing the threat of war, expanding freedom and opportunities. But in reality, fewer and fewer South Koreans believe in it. The public opinion has shifted dramatically. As of October 2025, over 50% say unification is unnecessary, and nearly 70% aren't interested in North Korea at all. For younger generations, North Korea feels increasingly foreign. Even the word 우리나라, which means our country, now usually refers only to South Korea, not a hypothetical unified Korea. So if belief is fading, why does the state still uphold the narrative? Partly because older generations remain attached to it, and partly because institutional momentum is powerful. It is much easier to keep the structure as it is than to redefine or to dismantle it. And it's not just laws and institutions. South Korea has also built a whole symbolic landscape around unification. Museums, cultural centers, exhibitions, railway lines, and terminals designed for a future where the peninsula is connected again. But to my opinion, the most striking sites are the observatories. Odusang Unification Observatory on the west coast, Gyeongsang on the east coast, and yes, the one with the Starbucks inside. Observatories' official purpose is to ease the suffering of separated families and to educate those who never experienced the war. Inside, you find exhibitions about the North Korean life, inter-Korean relations, separated families, and generated models of North Korean cities. So yes, it serves as a historical and educational space, but it is also undeniably a tourist attraction. People line up with binoculars to watch farmers, villagers, or children on the other side of the Amnok River. The conditions people are living in are harsh, and the gap in everyday realities is impossible to miss. Suddenly, the distance between the two sides feels much larger than it actually is. It's hard to feel solidarity when one side drinks coffee under a cool AC on a hot summer day, for example, while across the river, heat, dust, and people who may not even know they are being watched. So despite having unification in its name, the experience highlights separation rather than unity. Standing there, it is hard not to feel that this site serves actual tourism more than it serves reconciliation. To wrap everything up, I want to reflect on what all of this tells us. The current administration under Lee Jae-myung talks a lot about resuming dialogue, easing tensions, and finding a way to coexist. At the most recent UN General Assembly, Lee Jae-myung reaffirmed that South Korea respects North Korea's current system, rejects unification by absorption, and does not intend to engage in hostile acts. President Lee even proposed military talks with North Korea, adding that South Korea could consider adjusting joint military drills with the United States to make dialogue possible with North Korea. All this can be understandable from a political perspective, and from the need to reduce military risks on the peninsula. But if society itself is stopping believing in unification, why does the narrative continue so strongly at the institutional and symbolic levels? Why does it remain one of the loudest themes every time relations with North Korea are discussed? It is also difficult to build trust when one side fears being absorbed while the other keeps unification as an ultimate goal and a constitutional duty. These huge differences in positions and goals make it really complicated for the two sides to reconcile in any way or even find a way for a dialogue. And as I mentioned before, it is natural that everyday South Koreans see North Koreans as foreigners. The reality is that the two societies have grown apart in almost every aspect, and observatory points only reinforce the differences. One side becomes a viewing subject, and the other side becomes an object to be looked at. What kind of trust can be built when daily life on one side becomes an attraction for the other? And maybe these observatory points tell us less about the North and more about the South itself. But standing there, looking across the river, you still can't help but ask, what exactly are we still hoping to find on the other side? So what do you think are the real reasons behind the rhetoric that keeps unification in the conversation, even when public interest is fading? Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching and see you next time.